The kitchen sink had been dripping for 3 days straight. Each drop hit the stainless steel with a metallic ping that echoed through our empty house like a countdown timer. I'd been putting off fixing it, telling myself I was too busy at the hardware store. But the truth was simpler. I was enjoying the sound. It reminded me that something in this house was finally breaking down honestly. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I was elbow deep in the cabinet under the sink, wrench in hand, when I heard Clara's Honda pull into our driveway. The engine cut off, followed by the familiar slam of her car door. Then silence. She was sitting out there, probably checking her phone, maybe texting someone, maybe texting Mike. The front door opened with a creak I'd been meaning to fix for months. "Eddie, I'm back." Her voice carried that forced cheerfulness she used when she was about to deliver bad news. Like when she told me her mother was coming for Christmas, or when she announced she was taking a girls' trip to Bar Harbor without asking if I minded covering her half of the mortgage that month. "In the kitchen," I called back, not bothering to crawl out from under the sink. Let her come to me for once. I heard her heels clicking across the hardwood floor, then stopping. Her expensive luggage hit the floor with a thud that told me she'd packed more than she needed for a weekend getaway. A lot more. "How was your trip?" I asked, still working on the pipe joint. The question came out more sarcastic than I'd intended, but I didn't take it back. "It was enlightening." I paused. Enlightening. That was a new one. Clara usually described her adventures as amazing or so much fun or exactly what I needed. Enlightening sounded like something you'd say after a therapy session or a religious experience. I slid out from under the sink and looked at my wife of 8 years. She was standing in our kitchen doorway, still in her travel clothes, designer jeans and a flowing blouse that probably cost more than I made in a day. Her hair was different, lighter, with blonde highlights that caught the afternoon sun streaming through our window. She looked good, rested, guilty. "Enlightening how?" I asked, wiping my hands on a dish towel. Clara shifted her weight from one foot to the other, a tell I'd learned to recognize over the years. It meant she was about to say something she'd rehearsed. "Eddie, we need to talk." There it was. The 4 words that had ended more marriages than infidelity itself. Well, technically infidelity was probably about to end this one too, but the words were still the messenger. I leaned against the counter and crossed my arms. "I'm listening." She took a deep breath, the kind actors take before delivering their big monologue. "I've been doing a lot of thinking this weekend. About us, about where we're going, about what I want from life. And I'm not sure about us anymore." She waited for my reaction. Her blue eyes searched my face for shock, hurt, anger, any of the emotions a devoted husband should display when his wife drops a bomb like that. Instead, I smiled. "You know what, Clara? That's funny, because I'm not sure about us either. In fact, I haven't been sure about us since I found those text messages on your iPad 3 weeks ago." Her face went pale. "What text messages?" "The ones where you and Mike planned your little romantic getaway. The ones where you complained about your boring husband who never takes you anywhere exciting. The ones where you sent him pictures I'm pretty sure weren't meant for me to see." Clara's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She'd always been a terrible liar, which made her affair almost insulting in its transparency. "Eddie, I can explain." "Actually, you can't. But you can say hi to Mike for me. Tell him I said thanks for taking care of the divorce paperwork. I signed it yesterday." The lie rolled off my tongue smooth as butter. I hadn't signed any divorce papers yet, but I'd been thinking about it for weeks. And the look on Clara's face made the deception worth it. "You... what?" "Filed for divorce, yesterday. My lawyer says it should be final in about 60 days, given that we have documented evidence of adultery. Funny how Maine's still a fault state, isn't it?" Clara sank into one of our kitchen chairs, her carefully rehearsed speech forgotten. Eddie, please, let me explain what happened. What happened is pretty clear. You got bored with your safe, predictable husband and decided to trade up. Mike's got that whole adventure entrepreneur thing going for him, right? Jet ski rentals, that cute little cabin on the lake. I get it. I really do. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Clara? She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streaks. I didn't mean for it to happen. We were just friends at first. He was helping me with my insurance claim after that storm damaged his dock and we started talking and you decided to help him with more than his insurance claim. Don't be cruel. Cruel? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Cruel would be what you did to our marriage. What I'm doing is just honest. I walked over to the kitchen counter and picked up a manila envelope I'd placed there that morning. Clara's eyes followed my movement like she was watching a snake. What's that? Your copy of the divorce papers. I had them served to your office this afternoon, but I figured you'd want to see them sooner rather than later. Another lie, but Clara didn't know that. She stared at the envelope like it might bite her. Eddie, please, can't we talk about this? Can't we try counseling or… Clara, you just walked into our house and told me you weren't sure about us anymore. You were planning to ask for a separation, maybe a divorce. The only difference is I beat you to it. She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to hold her like I had so many times before. But that part was getting smaller by the minute. I never said I wanted a divorce. You didn't have to. Your actions said it for you. I walked past her toward the hallway, then stopped and turned back. Oh, and Clara, you might want to call Mike. Tell him his jet ski rental business is about to get a lot more interesting. What do you mean? I smiled again, and this time it wasn't entirely fake. Let's just say I've been enlightened too. The lobster trap hadn't changed in the 20 years since I'd started drinking there. Same scarred wooden bar, same neon beer signs flickering in the windows, same smell of fried food and broken dreams. It was the kind of place where locals went to forget their troubles and accidentally create new ones. I pushed through the heavy door at exactly 7 o'clock, knowing Tommy would already be there. My best friend since high school was nothing if not punctual, a habit he'd picked up during his 2 tours in Afghanistan. He was sitting at our usual spot at the end of the bar, nursing a Bud Light and scrolling through his phone. You look like hell, he said without looking up. Thanks. You always know just what to say. Tommy finally raised his eyes and studied my face. Clara dropped the hammer? Something like that. Pete, the bartender, slid a whiskey in front of me without being asked. He'd been working at the trap since before I was old enough to drink legally, and he had an uncanny ability to read his customers' moods. Rough day? Pete asked. Getting better by the minute. I took a sip of the whiskey and felt it burn down my throat. Good. I needed something to match the fire in my chest. So, what's the plan? Tommy asked. What makes you think I have a plan? Because I've known you for 20 years, and you always have a plan. Even when we were kids, and you wanted to get back at Billy Morrison for stealing your lunch money, you didn't just punch him. You convinced his girlfriend that he was cheating on her with Sarah Peterson. That was different. Billy deserved it. And Clara doesn't? I stared into my whiskey glass, watching the amber liquid catch the light from the beer signs. Clara made her choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences. Which are? Before I could answer, the door opened, and Lindsay Walsh walked in. Clara's best friend since college, Lindsay was everything my wife aspired to be. Confident, successful, and completely without conscience. She worked at the town hall and knew everyone's business before they did. She spotted me immediately and walked over, her heels clicking on the worn wooden floor like a countdown timer. Eddie, I didn't expect to see you here tonight. It's a free country, Lindsay. She slid onto the bar stool next to me, uninvited. I heard Clara got back from her trip today, How was it? Why don't you tell me? I'm sure she's already called you. Lindsay's smile faltered slightly. I haven't talked to her yet. That's funny, because usually you two are attached at the hip, especially when there's gossip to share. I don't know what you mean. I turned to face her fully, and something in my expression made her lean back slightly. Lindsay, we both know you helped Clara plan her little romantic getaway. You probably even helped her come up with excuses to tell me. So let's skip the innocent act, okay? Her face flushed red. Clara's my friend. I was just trying to help her figure things out. Figure what out? How to cheat on her husband without getting caught? It's not that simple, Eddie. You don't understand what she's been going through. Enlighten me. Lindsay glanced around the bar, probably checking to see who might be listening. The trap was busier than usual for a Tuesday night, with most of the stools occupied by the usual crowd of fishermen, construction workers, and retirees who had nowhere else to go. Clara's been feeling trapped, Lindsay said, lowering her voice. She feels like her life is stuck in neutral, like she's never going to experience anything exciting or spontaneous again. So she decided to experience Mike Travers. It's not about Mike specifically. It's about what he represents. Freedom, adventure, a chance to feel alive again. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You know what, Lindsay? You're right. Clara deserves to feel alive, and now she's going to get that chance. What do you mean? I finished my whiskey and stood up, dropping a 20 on the bar. She's going to feel very alive when she's trying to figure out how to pay for her new apartment on her insurance supervisor salary. Eddie, wait. But I was already walking toward the door. Tommy caught up with me in the parking lot. That was interesting, he said. That was just the opening act. What's the main event? I pulled out my phone and showed him a series of screenshots I'd taken from Clara's iPad. Text messages, photos, even a few voice recordings I'd managed to capture when she thought I was asleep. Tommy whistled low. Jesus, Eddie, this is some serious evidence. It gets better. Mike's been bragging to half the town about his conquest. Apparently he thinks married women are his specialty. What are you going to do with all this? I looked back at the trap, where I could see Lindsay through the window, frantically typing on her phone, probably warning Clara that I was on the warpath. Remember what you said about Billy Morrison? Yeah? This time, I'm not just convincing one girlfriend. I'm convincing the whole damn town. Tommy grinned. Now that sounds like the Eddie Sutton I remember. What do you need me to do? How's your social media game? Rusty, but functional. Why? I pulled up another app on my phone, one I'd downloaded that afternoon. Because tomorrow night is the summer bash, and I think it's time this town learned the truth about Clara and Mike's little love affair. You're going to out them publicly? I'm going to let them out themselves. All I'm going to do is provide the platform. Tommy was quiet for a moment, studying my face in the parking lot's dim light. You sure about this? Once you pull this trigger, there's no taking it back. Clara made that decision when she chose Mike over our marriage. Now she gets to live with it. I climbed into my pickup truck and rolled down the window. Tommy, remember what you said about wanting to help? Yeah? Tomorrow night, I'm going to need someone to work the sound system at the bash. Think you can handle that? His grin widened. Brother, I've been waiting 8 years for you to ask me to do something like this. As I drove home, I passed Mike's cabin on the lake. His lights were on, and I could see 2 silhouettes moving around inside. Clara's Honda was parked in his driveway. I pulled over and sat there for a moment, watching my wife through another man's window. She was laughing at something he'd said, her head thrown back in genuine joy. I couldn't remember the last time she'd laughed like that with me. For a split second, I felt a stab of real pain. Not anger, not betrayal, but actual grief for what we'd lost. Or maybe for what we'd never really had in the first place. Then I remembered Lindsay's words about Clara feeling trapped, and the pain hardened into something colder and more useful. Tomorrow night, Clara was going to learn what trapped really felt like. The annual Summer Bash was Millfield's biggest social event, a combination charity auction, street fair, and excuse for the entire town to get drunk together in public. Main Street was closed to traffic, lined with booths selling everything from lobster rolls to handmade jewelry. A small stage had been set up in front of the town hall, where local bands would perform between auction items and speeches from various town officials. I'd been helping organize the bash for 5 years, ever since Clara convinced me it would be good for business. The hardware store always sponsored one of the bigger auction items, usually a tool set or home improvement package, and I'd gotten to know most of the other volunteers pretty well, which was why nobody questioned my offer to help Tommy set up the sound system that afternoon. "You sure you know what you're doing with this?" Tommy asked, adjusting the microphone levels on the mixing board. "I've been watching Pete do it for years. How hard can it be?" Famous last words. The truth was, I'd spent most of the previous night watching YouTube videos about audio equipment. I'd also made a few other preparations that Tommy didn't need to know about yet. "Test, test," I said into the microphone. My voice boomed across the empty street, echoing off the storefronts. "Looks like it's working. Eddie, you sure about this? I mean, really sure? Because once this happens, there's no going back." I looked down Main Street, imagining it filled with people in a few hours. Friends, neighbors, customers from the hardware store. People who'd known Clara and me as a couple for 8 years. People who probably suspected something was wrong but were too polite to ask. "Tommy, you remember when we were kids and you dared me to jump off the old railroad bridge into the river? Yeah, you broke your arm. But I jumped. This is different, Eddie. This isn't just about you getting hurt. This is about destroying people. Clara destroyed our marriage. Mike helped her do it. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth." Tommy was quiet for a moment, adjusting cables that didn't need adjusting. "What about forgiveness? What about trying to work things out? You want to know what Clara said to me this morning?" "What?" "She asked if she could borrow money to put a deposit down on an apartment. Said she needed to explore her options before making any final decisions about our marriage. Jesus. She wants to have her cake and eat it too, keep me as a backup plan while she plays house with Mike. Well, I'm done being anyone's backup plan." By 6 o'clock, Main Street was packed. The smell of fried dough and barbecue filled the air, mixed with the sound of laughter and conversation. Kids ran between the booths with sticky hands and cotton candy-stained faces while their parents browsed the auction items and caught up with neighbors. I spotted Clara near the jewelry booth, wearing a sundress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. She was talking to Robin, her co-worker from the insurance office, both of them holding plastic cups of beer. Clara looked relaxed, happy even, like she didn't have a care in the world. Mike was working his own booth, renting out life jackets and promoting his jet ski business. He had that easy charm that attracted customers and apparently married women. Every few minutes he'd catch Clara's eye across the crowd and give her a little wave. It was almost sweet, in a nauseating kind of way. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said into the microphone, my voice cutting through the crowd noise, "welcome to the 32nd annual Millfield Summer Bash." A cheer went up from the crowd. I could see Clara looking toward the stage, probably wondering why I was handling the announcements instead of Pete. Before we get started with tonight's auction, I'd like to thank all of our sponsors and volunteers. And I'd especially like to thank my wife Clara for inspiring tonight's theme, finding new adventures and exploring your options. Clara's smile faltered slightly. She was too far away for me to see her expression clearly, but I could tell she was confused. Now, as many of you know, the Summer Bash has always been about bringing our community together and sharing what's important to us. Tonight, I'd like to share something very important with all of you. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the sound system's Bluetooth receiver. Tommy shot me a worried look from beside the stage. "Clara, honey, could you come up here for a minute?" The crowd turned to look at Clara, who had gone pale. She shook her head and took a step backward, but the people around her were already encouraging her to go to the stage. "Come on, Clara," someone shouted. "Don't be shy." Reluctantly, she made her way through the crowd. When she reached the stage, I offered her my hand to help her up. She took it, but her palm was sweaty with nervousness. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "Sharing," I said into the microphone. "Clara, why don't you tell everyone about your enlightening trip to Bar Harbor?" "Eddie, please don't do this." But I was already pressing play on my phone. Clara's voice filled the air, crystal clear through the sound system. "I can't keep pretending everything's fine with Eddie. He's so boring, Mike. He never wants to do anything spontaneous or exciting. I feel like I'm dying inside." The crowd went silent. Clara's face turned bright red. Mike's voice came through the speakers next. "You deserve better than that, baby. You deserve someone who appreciates how amazing you are." "I know. I just feel so guilty. Eddie's not a bad person. He's just safe. Predictable. Everything I don't want anymore. So leave him. Life's too short to waste it on safe and predictable." I stopped the recording and looked out at the crowd. Hundreds of faces stared back at me, mouths open, eyes wide. Near the back, I could see Mike pushing through the crowd toward the stage. "That was recorded 3 weeks ago," I said into the microphone, "while I was at work, trying to earn enough money to pay for Clara's girls' trip to Bar Harbor, which, as it turns out, wasn't really a girls' trip at all." "Eddie, stop," Clara whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Why should I stop? You didn't stop. Mike didn't stop. Why should I be the only one who shows restraint?" Mike had reached the stage now, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "You son of a bitch! Turn that thing off!" Actually, I think people deserve to hear the rest. I pressed play again. This time it was Clara's voice, breathless and excited. "The things you do to me, Mike. Eddie hasn't touched me like that in years. I forgot what it felt like to actually want someone. Eddie!" Mike jumped onto the stage and lunged for my phone. I sidestepped him easily and he crashed into the microphone stand. The crowd was in chaos now. Some people were laughing. Others looked shocked or disgusted. I could hear fragments of conversation. I knew something was going on. Poor Eddie. What a slut. Someone should call the police. Clara was sobbing now, her carefully applied makeup running down her cheeks in black streams. "Please stop, please, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." "Sorry for what, Clara? Sorry you got caught?" Mike had gotten back to his feet and was advancing on me again, but Tommy stepped between us. "I don't think so, buddy," Tommy said. "This is insane," Mike shouted to the crowd. "He's violating our privacy. This has to be illegal." "Actually," I said into the microphone, "Maine is a one-party consent state, which means I only needed one person's permission to record these conversations, and since I was part of all of them, I gave myself permission." That wasn't entirely true. I'd recorded most of these conversations without being present, but the crowd didn't need to know that. "You're destroying people's lives," Clara screamed. "No, Clara, you destroyed our life. I'm just making sure everyone knows who's responsible." I looked out at the crowd one more time. Some faces showed sympathy, others disgust. A few people were already pulling out their phones, probably posting about this on social media. "Ladies and gentlemen, the auction will continue in 15 minutes. In the meantime, please enjoy the refreshments and remember, always read the fine print before you sign anything." I handed the microphone to Tommy and walked off the stage, leaving Clara and Mike to face the crowd alone. The hardware store was busier than usual the next morning. Word had spread quickly through town about the previous night's events, and it seemed like everyone wanted to stop by and offer their opinion on the situation. "Hell of a show last night, Eddie," said Bill Morrison, Billy's father, as he paid for a box of screws. "About time someone called out that Travers boy. Always thought he was too slick for his own good." "Just telling the truth, Bill. Truth's a dangerous thing in the wrong hands. Good thing yours are the right ones." I wasn't so sure about that, but I nodded anyway. Mrs. Larkin, my elderly neighbor, came in around 10 with a list of items she probably didn't need, but wanted an excuse to buy so she could talk. "I saw Clara loading boxes into her car this morning," she said, examining a package of light bulbs with unnecessary intensity. "Moving out?" "Looks that way. Probably for the best. Marriage is hard enough without adding liars to the mix." By lunchtime, I'd heard at least a dozen different versions of what had happened at the summer bash. In some versions, I was a hero standing up for wronged husbands everywhere. In others, I was a vindictive ex-husband who'd gone too far. The truth, as usual, was probably somewhere in between. Tommy stopped by around 2 with sandwiches from the deli down the street. "How you holding up?" he asked. "Better than expected. You?" "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. This feels too easy." He was right. Clara and Mike had both disappeared after the summer bash, and I hadn't heard from either of them since. No angry phone calls, no lawyers threatening lawsuits, no attempts at retaliation. It was like they'd just vanished. "Maybe they're too embarrassed to show their faces," I said. "Or maybe they're planning something." Before I could respond, the bell above the store's front door chimed. Lindsay Walsh walked in, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she was wearing jeans and a t-shirt instead of her typical business attire. "We need to talk," she said. "I'm busy." "Eddie, please, this is important." Tommy looked back and forth between us, then stood up. "I'll be in the back checking inventory." Lindsay waited until he was gone, then moved closer to the counter. "What you did last night was cruel and unnecessary." "What Clara did to our marriage was cruel and unnecessary. What I did was just honest." "You humiliated her in front of the entire town. She's devastated." "Good. Maybe now she knows how I felt when I found those text messages." Lindsay's face flushed with anger. "You don't understand what she's been going through, the pressure she's been under at work, the way you've been taking her for granted." "Taking her for granted? I worked 60 hours a week to pay for her car, her clothes, her girls' trips. I took her for granted by giving her everything she wanted." "Material things aren't everything, Eddie. She needed emotional support. She needed someone who understood her dreams and ambitions. She needed someone who would tell her it was okay to cheat on her husband." Lindsay was quiet for a moment, her anger deflating slightly. "I never told her to cheat. I just told her she deserved to be happy. And apparently her happiness required Mike Travers. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. It was just supposed to be a fling, something to help her figure out what she really wanted. Well, now she knows. She wants a divorce and half of everything I've worked for. She doesn't want your money, Eddie. She just wants out. Then she can get out, but she doesn't get to play the victim while she's doing it." Lindsay stared at me for a long moment, like she was seeing me for the first time. "I don't know who you are anymore. I'm the same person I've always been. The only difference is now I'm not pretending everything's fine when it's not." She turned and walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back. "This isn't over, Eddie. Clara has friends, people who care about her. We're not going to let you destroy her life just because your ego got bruised." "My ego didn't get bruised, Lindsay. My marriage got destroyed. There's a difference." After she left, Tommy came back from the stockroom. That sounded ominous. "Lindsay's all talk. She's been fighting Clara's battles since college. What if she's not just talking this time?" I thought about that for a moment. Lindsay worked at the town hall, which meant she had access to permits, licenses, and other official documents. She also knew everyone in town and had a talent for spreading information, true or not. What's the worst she could do? I don't know, but I get the feeling we're about to find out. That evening, I was closing up the store when my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "You think you won, but this is just the beginning. Clara deserves better than you, and everyone's going to know it soon. A friend." I showed the message to Tommy, who was helping me lock up. "Definitely Lindsay," he said. "Probably." "You worried?" I thought about Clara loading boxes into her car that morning, about the way she'd looked at Mike across the crowd at the summer bash, about the 8 years of marriage that had apparently meant so little to her that she'd thrown it away for a few weeks of excitement. "No," I said. "I'm not worried. I'm ready." Ready for what? Whatever comes next. But as we walked to our cars in the empty parking lot, I couldn't shake the feeling that Lindsay was right about one thing. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The first sign of trouble came on Thursday morning when I arrived at the hardware store to find a small crowd gathered outside. They weren't customers. I could tell by the way they were standing, arms crossed, expressions hostile. "There he is," said Janet Murphy, who ran the flower shop 2 doors down. "The man who thinks it's okay to publicly humiliate women. Now hold on, Janet. Don't you hold on me, Eddie Sutton. What you did to that poor girl was inexcusable." Poor girl. Clara was 32 years old and had been cheating on me for months, but apparently that didn't matter to Janet. "Clara made her own choices," I said, pulling out my keys. "And you made yours. The choice to embarrass her in front of the whole town instead of handling your problems like an adult." Behind Janet, I could see several other women nodding in agreement. Sarah Chen from the bakery, Maria Santos from the post office, even old Mrs. Patterson, who usually minded her own business. "Ladies, I understand you're upset, but this is between Clara and me." "No, it's not," said Sarah. "When you use a public forum to air private business, it becomes everyone's business." I unlocked the store and stepped inside, hoping they'd disperse. Instead, they followed me. "We want you to know that we're organizing a boycott," Janet announced. "Until you make a public apology to Clara, none of us will be shopping here." "That's your right," I said, turning on the lights. "It's also our right to tell our friends and families about what kind of man you really are." After they left, I called Tommy. "We've got a problem," I said. "How big a problem?" "The size of half the women in town." Tommy arrived 20 minutes later with coffee and a grim expression. "I've been making some calls," he said. "Lindsay's been busy. She's been telling everyone that you recorded those conversations illegally, that you violated Clara's privacy, that you're an abusive husband who drove his wife into another man's arms." "That's ridiculous." "Maybe, but people are buying it. The story's changing, Eddie. You're not the wronged husband anymore. You're the villain." I sat down heavily in my desk chair. How did this happen so fast? Social media. Lindsay posted a long Facebook rant about domestic emotional abuse and tagged half the town. It's been shared about 50 times since yesterday. He showed me his phone. Lindsay's post was a masterpiece of manipulation, painting Clara as a victim of psychological abuse who'd been driven to seek comfort elsewhere. It never explicitly said I was abusive, but the implication was clear. This is insane. I never laid a hand on Clara. I never even raised my voice to her until I found out about the affair. I know that. You know that. But Lindsay's version is more dramatic, and people love drama. The bell above the door chimed, and Pete from the lobster trap walked in. "Hey, Eddie, heard you're having some trouble." "Word travels fast." "Faster than you'd think. I've had 3 different women come into the bar since yesterday, all telling me I should refuse to serve you." "And?" Pete grinned. "I told them the trap doesn't discriminate against anyone except Yankees fans and people who don't tip." "Thanks, Pete. Don't thank me yet. I'm here because I thought you should know. Mike's been in the bar the last 2 nights telling his side of the story. Says Clara came to him, said you were emotionally distant and controlling, says she was scared to leave you because you handled all the finances. That's complete bullshit." "I know, but he's got a silver tongue and some people are listening." Tommy leaned forward. "What's his endgame? What does he want?" "From what I can tell, he wants to rehabilitate his image. Being known as a home wrecker isn't good for business, especially in a small town. So now, he's the knight in shining armor, who rescued a damsel in distress." I felt something cold and hard settling in my stomach. "They're rewriting history. Happens all the time," Pete said. "Whoever tells their story first and loudest usually wins. So what do I do?" Fight back, but you better do it soon before their version becomes the official truth. After Pete left, I sat in the store for a long time thinking. A few customers came and went, but business was definitely slower than usual. Every time the bell chimed, I expected to see another group of angry women, or maybe even the police, coming to arrest me for some crime I hadn't committed. Around lunchtime, my phone rang. The caller ID showed my lawyer's name. "Eddie, it's Jim Patterson. We need to talk." "About what?" "About the restraining order Clara filed against you this morning." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What restraining order?" "She's claiming you've been harassing and threatening her. Says she's afraid for her safety." "That's insane. I haven't even spoken to her since Tuesday night." "I believe you, but we need to take this seriously. Can you come to my office this afternoon?" After I hung up, Tommy looked at me with concern. "What now?" "Clara's filed a restraining order. Says I'm threatening her." "Jesus, this is getting out of hand." "No, this is getting strategic. Lindsay's not just trying to change public opinion. She's trying to destroy me legally." "What's the next move?" I thought about that for a moment. Clara and her allies had made their play, and it was a good one. They'd turned me from victim to villain, from wronged husband to abusive ex. If I didn't do something soon, their version of events would become the only version that mattered. "The next move is we stop playing defense and start playing offense." "What do you have in mind?" I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the contacts until I found the number I was looking for. "Remember what you said about social media?" "Yeah?" "Time to get an education." I dialed the number and waited for an answer. "Robin? It's Eddie Sutton. We need to talk." Robin Martinez met me at the Lobster Trap that evening, sliding into the booth across from me with the nervous energy of someone about to commit treason. Clara's co-worker was younger than my wife, maybe 27, with the kind of social media savvy that made her invaluable in the modern workplace. "I can't believe I'm doing this," she said, glancing around the bar like she expected Clara to materialize at any moment. "You don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with." "It's not about comfort. It's about what's right." She pulled out her phone and set it on the table between us. "Clara's been lying to everyone, including me. I thought you should know the truth." "What truth?" Robin took a deep breath. "The affair didn't start 3 weeks ago. It's been going on for 4 months. And Clara wasn't some innocent victim who got swept off her feet. She pursued Mike." She swiped through her phone and showed me a series of screenshots. Text messages between Clara and Robin, dating back to February. She asked me to help her get Mike's attention. Said she was bored with her marriage and wanted some excitement. I thought she was just talking, you know. I didn't think she'd actually do anything. The messages were damning. Clara plotting ways to run into Mike, asking Robin to find out his schedule, even asking for advice on what to wear to accidentally bump into him at the marina. "There's more," Robin said, swiping to another conversation. "She's been planning to leave you for months. She's been moving money into a separate account, talking to lawyers, even looking at apartments. While telling me she loved me and wanted to work on our marriage. She said you were too trusting, that you'd never figure it out because you weren't paying attention." The betrayal cut deeper than I'd expected. It was one thing to know Clara had cheated. It was another to know she'd been planning it for months while lying to my face every single day. "Why are you telling me this?" Robin was quiet for a moment, staring at her phone. "Because what she did to you was wrong, and because what Lindsay's doing now is even worse." "What do you mean?" "The restraining order, the abuse allegations. Clara knows they're false, but she's going along with it because Lindsay convinced her it's the only way to protect her reputation. So she's willing to destroy mine instead. Lindsay says it's war now, that you fired the first shot at the summer bash, and now they have to finish it." I leaned back in the booth, processing this information. Clara wasn't just a cheating wife anymore. She was an active participant in a campaign to destroy my life. "What do you want in return for this information?" Robin looked surprised. "Nothing. I just want this to stop before it gets worse. It's going to get worse before it gets better. What do you mean? I pulled out my own phone and showed her a video I'd recorded that afternoon. It was Mike, standing outside his cabin, screaming at someone on the phone. I've been watching Mike's place since yesterday. He's not handling the pressure well. His business is tanking, his reputation is shot, and now Clara's living with him full-time. He's starting to crack. In the video, Mike was clearly agitated, pacing back and forth while yelling into his phone. I couldn't make out all the words, but I caught enough to get the gist. He was blaming Clara for ruining his life. How did you get this? I parked across the lake with a telephoto lens. Amazing what you can see from a distance. Robin stared at the video, her expression troubled. This is getting scary, Eddie. What if he hurts her? He's not going to hurt her. He's just going to dump her. And when he does, Clara's going to be left with nothing but the lies she's been telling about me. You sound like you want that to happen. I want the truth to come out. All of it. Robin was quiet for a long moment, then looked up at me with something like fear in her eyes. What are you planning? Justice. That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters. The next morning, I woke up to find my truck's tires slashed and "abuser" spray-painted across my garage door. I called the police, but Officer Martinez, no relation to Robin, seemed skeptical about my claims of innocence. Mr. Sutton, I have to ask, have you been in contact with your wife since the restraining order was filed? No, I haven't even seen her. What about Mr. Travers? What about him? Have you had any contact with him? I thought about the video I'd recorded, about the hours I'd spent watching his cabin from across the lake. No direct contact. What does that mean? It means I haven't spoken to him or approached him. Officer Martinez made some notes in his report. I'm going to be honest with you, Mr. Sutton. There's a lot of talk in town about what happened at the summer bash. Some people think you went too far. And what do you think? I think marriages are complicated, and I try to stay out of them unless someone gets hurt. Someone did get hurt. Me. I understand that, but vandalism isn't the answer. If you have evidence of who did this, we'll investigate. Otherwise, I'd suggest you focus on moving forward. After he left, I called Tommy. It's time, I said. Time for what? The final act. Eddie, maybe you should take a step back. This is getting out of hand. No, this is exactly where it needs to be. Clara and Lindsay want to play hardball? Fine, but they picked the wrong opponent. What are you going to do? Something they'll never see coming. That afternoon, I drove to the town hall. Lindsay was at her desk, typing on her computer with the focused intensity of someone spreading poison across social media. Eddie, you're not supposed to be here. The restraining order is against contacting Clara, not you. What do you want? I sat down across from her desk and smiled. I want to thank you. Thank me? For showing me who my real enemies are, for helping me understand that some people will do anything to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. Lindsay's eyes narrowed. If you're here to threaten me, I'm here to make you an offer. What kind of offer? The kind that lets you walk away from this mess with your reputation intact. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot of her Facebook post about domestic abuse. This post has been shared 87 times. It's been liked by 234 people. Very impressive. So it's also completely false. And when the truth comes out, and it will come out, all those people are going to know that you lied to them. I didn't lie about anything. You lied about everything. Clara wasn't abused. She wasn't trapped. She wasn't driven into Mike's arms by my neglect. She was a bored housewife who decided to have an affair and got caught. That's your version. That's the truth, and I can prove it. I showed her Robin's screenshots, the evidence of Clara's premeditation, the months of planning and deception. Lindsay's face went pale as she scrolled through the messages. Where did you get these? Does it matter? What matters is that they exist, and tomorrow night everyone in town is going to see them. What do you mean? The town council meeting. Public comment period. I'm going to present evidence that Clara committed perjury when she filed that restraining order. Evidence that you helped her do it. Lindsay stared at the phone screen, her hands shaking slightly. You can't do this. I can and I will, unless what? Unless you convince Clara to withdraw the restraining order and make a public apology. Tonight. She'll never do that. Then tomorrow night, everyone in town is going to learn the truth about both of you. I stood up and headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and Lindsay, you might want to check on Mike and Clara. I have a feeling their relationship is about to hit some rough waters. As I walked out of the town hall, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from an unknown number, but I recognized the writing style. You bastard. This isn't over. C. I smiled and typed back, yes it is. But I was wrong. It wasn't over yet. The real ending was still 24 hours away, and it was going to be bigger than anything I'd planned. The Millfield Town Council usually met in peace, quiet meetings about potholes and barking dogs. But tonight, the basement of the town hall was packed. Half the town had come to watch what everyone was calling the showdown between me, my wife Clara, and her friend Lindsay. I sat in the back, holding a folder thick with evidence, messages, photos, bank records, and proof of Clara's affair with Mike Travers. Clara sat near the front with Lindsay, both dressed like mourners at a funeral. When the public comment period began, Lindsay stood and delivered a fiery speech about the weaponization of private information. She called out men who used humiliation to control women. The crowd applauded. Clara looked proud. Lindsay was winning. Then I stood up. The room went silent. Eddie Sutton, 23 Oak Street, I said, and walked to the front with my folder. I held up a bank statement. My wife opened a secret account 4 months ago and moved $8,000 from our joint savings into it. Money I earned working 60-hour weeks. The crowd shifted uneasily. These, I continued, showing printed texts, are messages between my wife and her co-worker. In them, she plans her affair. What to wear, how to seduce him, how to make it look like I was the problem. The applause stopped. I could feel the air tighten. Clara's eyes dropped to the floor. She filed a restraining order yesterday, I said, claiming abuse. But these messages prove she planned to leave long before she ever accused me. She didn't want safety. She wanted sympathy. I lifted one last photo, my garage door, vandalized with the word abuser in red paint. This is what happens when lies replace truth. The chairman cut me off. Your time is up. I just want the truth to matter, I said. If it doesn't matter here, it doesn't matter anywhere. Silence filled the room. Then the basement door burst open. Mike Travers staggered in, drunk, furious, broken. Where is she? He shouted. His eyes found Clara. You ruined my life. My business is gone because of you. He turned to the crowd, trembling with rage. You want the truth? She told me her husband was abusive. She said she was trapped. I believed her, but it was all a lie. She used me to feel alive, and when she got caught, she tried to destroy both of us. Clara begged him to stop, but Mike wouldn't. You played the victim while you were the one doing the damage. Officer Martinez arrived and escorted Mike out as the room exploded in whispers. Clara was left crying in her seat. Lindsay, pale and shaken, said nothing. The chairman's gavel hit the table, but no one was listening. The meeting was over. The truth had already done its work. I walked out with my friend Tommy. Hell of a show, he muttered. It's not over yet, I said, pulling out my phone. A message from Clara blinked on the screen. Can we talk, please? I'll tell the truth about everything. Tommy asked, You going to reply? I stared at the message for a long time, then locked the screen. No, I said. I think she's said enough. As we stepped into the cool night, the sound of murmurs followed us from the basement. By morning, the whole town would know the truth about Clara, about Mike, and about me. I wasn't the monster she painted me to be. I was just a man who'd been lied to and refused to stay silent. It wasn't a happy ending, but it was the truth. And in Millfield, that meant everything.